Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kirk Almasian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live stream. I appreciate every single one of you, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Rumble. A few days ago, I published an article on Substack. It's an opinion article. The title is The Empire Above Epstein. And this article has received a lot of interaction. Many people liked it, many people shared it, many people commented on it. So I thought it would be also a brilliant idea to post this article on X as well. As you may know, on X, we also have the possibility and opportunity to publish articles. And I published this article yesterday or the day before. And in the past, let's say 48 hours or so, the article has been seen by around 500,000 people. Around 60,000 to 70,000 people have read the article, which I find it spectacular. I have never published an article which was read by 70,000 people, including many of the, let's say, famous people who they speak about these dystopian scenarios. They speak about AI, they speak about digital IDs, digital currencies, the CBDCs. They spoke about in the past about the measures imposed after the corona crisis, for example. And I found that there is a big hunger from the people to learn more about this case. And step by step, I also coming to the conclusion that despite what we see on this channel as important geopolitical issues, I will also cover consistently, let's say, this type of theories, speculations, and also possible policies that could be adopted by government and non-government agencies, including the people who have enormous influence on foreign policy making, and also some of the gatherings, for example, the World Economic Forum in Davos, G7, G8, the World Bank, and other types of bodies who have enormous influence over us as the citizens of the world. Therefore, tomorrow, on Tuesday, is the 17th of February 2026, I will host Neil Oliver. Neil Oliver, I found him first on Tucker Carlson's podcast. This was a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago. And the title of the thumbnail was a conspiracy theorist. And it caught my attention because I was very much interested to listen to a conspiracy theorist basically explaining the global banking system, the banking dynasties, the world after World War II. Also, he spoke about the measures imposed on us after the corona crisis and the possible dystopian future, which some of these so-called elites are designing for us. And to be honest with you, I found this conversation between Neil Oliver and Tucker Carlson quite telling, revealing. It was something that I thought to myself, I told myself as well, like there are few things he mentioned which I was convinced. This is a conviction in my mind, but I didn't have the linguistic, let's say, and the argumentative capacity to explain the things that he has explained in a very eloquent manner and in a very intellectual manner. So I followed him on X, and after some time, probably because I posted a few comments on his posts, he followed me back. And today he hosted me a few times on his show, on his personal show, on his own YouTube channel, and also on GB News. Now, I spoke to him yesterday and I invited him to our show, Syriana Analysis, tomorrow on Tuesday. We are going to basically go more in depth into the empire above Epstein. I'm going to propose and ask very important questions, some of which are based on speculations. And rest assured that the answers are going to be very interesting for you as well. So I'm going also, as I said, going to expand the coverage on this channel into these matters. So Neil Oliver would be one of the first. Before him, I also hosted Whitney Webb, which was a great conversation with her, but I myself wasn't as engaged or informed or interested in these matters as I am today, especially after the recent email drop of the Epstein files. And you guys on Syriana Analysis, you have shown great interest in this type of content, and many more people tuned in and watched and interacted and engaged with the previous videos which I posted about this exact topic, and that is the empire above Epstein. Therefore, if you guys are interested in this, I would really appreciate it if you simply subscribe to Syriana Analysis and tune in tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central European Time. It is going to be at 4 p.m., of course, London time, and 11 a.m. Eastern American time. Now, that being said, let's go to our today's topic. And this is a serious topic, especially for those of you guys who are concerned and worried about a new possible war in the Middle East. A few weeks ago, when Donald Trump has been threatening Iran with war, I have told you that I personally do not believe that in this in the era which let's say a few weeks ago, that war is imminent. I didn't believe that war is imminent, and I told you war is not imminent against Iran. And this was a few weeks ago because, in my opinion, I had enough information to believe that Donald Trump is trying to exert maximum pressure against Iran in order to bring and invite the Iranians to the negotiation table. However, now that the talks are happening, and Bibi Netanyahu, I'm sorry for calling him Bibi Netanyahu, the other day somebody has been critical of me for saying Bibi Netanyahu, and I agree. Bibi Netanyahu sounds too nice and too cute to describe this type of persona. So when we have new realities or new factors in our hands, one of which is that the Iranians came for negotiations with their own sets of limits and with their own sets of red lines. Then we have the Americans sending reinforcement, and they have deployed different, let's say, aircraft carriers, warships into the international waters, somewhere close to the Iranian territory, but not in the Strait of Hormuz, of course, or in the Arabian Peninsula. They have also deployed long range missiles, they have deployed cruise missiles, they have deployed new air defense systems in the region, some of which is in Israel, others are in Jordan, and also we have preparations in Qatar. Now, the Emiratis and the Saudis are saying we will not allow the Americans and the Israelis to use our air force to strike Iran. And I think that could complicate the military situation a little bit against if the Americans are going to go into war against Iran, but it will not stop them from bombing Iran if they want to. And that doesn't mean that they will be successful in their goal. Today is the 16th of February 2026. The conditions have changed slightly when it comes to the military and security situation vis-a-vis or between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Now, the talks are ongoing. There is going to be another talk on Wednesday in Geneva between the Iranians, the Americans, and the Omanis are going to mediate. So on Wednesday, I also invited our friend Patrick Henningson to join us on Syriana Analysis if he can, because he was in Iran recently and he covered some of the demonstrations and the political activities there in support of the Iranian government. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to be very blunt and very honest with him, and I will try to have objective conversation with him as well about Iran, and especially when it comes to the demands and the some people just want more reforms, some people want better economic conditions in the country, and some people want also more social freedoms and political freedoms in the country, right? So we cannot really come and say everyone who is against the government is a collaborator or a spy, but at the same time we can safely say those who receive instructions, money, logistics, technology from the outside forces are collaborators, are can be called spies, can be called traitors in the classical sense, right? But the people, in my opinion, those who are just peacefully asking for reforms in the country, their voices should be heard, in my opinion. Now, just want to give a quick note about somebody was saying the GB News is a Zionist outlet. Now, I have myself recorded an interview with GB News. This was a few months ago, and this was 1.5 hour of interview about Syria. And because maybe this is just my speculation, because I also criticized Israel harshly during this interview and blamed them for playing an instrumental role in removing the former Assad government and replacing it with an Al Qaeda led regime. Proudly, that was the reason which they didn't broadcast this interview. So they just simply apologized and they didn't post this interview. And that was a lesson for me that I will never ever go to any big media outlet from now on without, I'm not talking about YouTube channels, but rather these big TV outlets. I will never go to any big news outlet ever again without written commitment that they will publish the interview, and I will also ask them for money. This is for the first time I'm saying this. I will never, ever, I will no longer go to any big news outlet which have the money, they have the sponsors, and they have wasted 1.5 to 2 hours of my time, and they have taken my knowledge, and then not publishing it, in my opinion, is simply unacceptable. So this is going to be my new practice from now on. However, Neil Oliver is definitely not a Zionist. Neil Oliver also called what happened in Gaza a genocide, and he has been very critical of the US foreign policy and also of the Israeli foreign policy. This is a context for you to know before you tune in tomorrow to our conversation with Neil Oliver. That being said, guys, today nowadays we have an article published in Reuters, and we have to be very, by the way, cautious with everything that is mentioned on any mainstream media outlets nowadays, because it could be part of the psychological operation they are playing against Iran. So not everything mentioned in these articles are correct or probably correct. We don't know, because we are living in times when the US and Israel are trying to terrify Iran by trying to give the impression that war is imminent in order to force them for compromise. And the type of compromise that the Americans and the Israelis are asking for Iran is basically a regime change without a regime change. The type of a regime change that Iran would shift its geopolitical posture completely 180 degrees, which is impossible to happen, in my opinion, by without engaging in military hostilities against Iran itself, or trying to occupy it or topple the regime and bring someone else from outside. I think what they're trying to do is a soft coup inside the system itself in Iran, through negotiations, diplomacy, and probably also trying to convince and persuade some of the people who are at the current moment in positions of power or close to the power structures in Iran that the United States will cooperate with them or bring them to power if they promise them a few things. One is the complete annihilation of the Iranian nuclear program. The second is the complete destruction of the ballistic missiles, program and limit it to 300 kilometer. This is what they're talking about. And the third is Iran's geopolitical posture in the region, and that is Iran's transnational character and nature, and also its support of state and non-state actors who have been damaging basically the hegemon in the region. And the hegemon is the United States and Israel in this case, right? So we have to put all these things in our mind as a context before we go and read this article. And this is, they claim to be an exclusive article on the Reuters. They say US military preparing for potentially weeks long Iran operations. So the US military is preparing for the possibility of sustained weeks long operations against Iran if President Donald Trump orders an attack. Two US officials told Reuters in what could become a far more serious conflict than previously seen between the countries. Of course, they don't mention who are these US officials, what is their position, are they senior, are they junior, are they in the administration, are they in the DoD? Who are these officials? Are they can be trusted or not? They're just quoting them without mentioning names because they say because of the sensitivity of the issue. So we have the U.S. envoy, of course, Steve Witkoff, and also Jared Kushner. They will hold negotiations with Iran on Tuesday. So Tuesday is tomorrow, which is great in my opinion. When the negotiations are this, let's say round of negotiations is over tomorrow. So after tomorrow on Wednesday, we could speak about it with our friend Patrick Henningson. So we have the U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They will meet with the Iranian diplomats. And this meeting will be accompanied by representatives from Oman acting as mediators. The US Secretary of State, of course, Marco Rubio, cautioned on Saturday that while Trump's preference was to reach a deal with Tehran, that is very hard to do. This is what he claims. Meanwhile, Trump has amassed military forces in the region, raising fears of new military action. US officials said on Friday the Pentagon was sending an additional aircraft carrier to the Middle East, adding thousands more troops, along with fighter aircraft, guided missile destroyers, and other firepower capable of waging attacks and defending against them. Now, Trump speaking, he spoke on Friday after a military event, and he openly basically floated the possibility of changing the government in Iran, saying it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen. And he declined to share who he wants or who he wanted to take over Iran, but said there are people. Trump has long voiced skepticism about sending ground troops into Iran, saying last year the last thing you want to do is ground forces, and the kind of US firepower arrayed in the Middle East so far suggest options for strikes primarily by air and naval forces. Now, as we guys remember, in June, the United States bombed Iran, and this operation was called Midnight Hammer. And this was basically a one-off US attack claiming to be basically destroying the nuclear program of Iran. And they have used stealth bombers or the strategic B-52 bombers flying from the United States to strike Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran staged, of course, a very limited retaliatory strike on US base in Qatar. I mean, this tit for tat, which happened, in my opinion, was agreed upon between both sides, the Americans and the Iranians, and the Americans intervened, in my opinion, to end the scale of the escalation back in the day. This was in June because they didn't want for this to be turned into a regional war, especially that Iran started hitting Israel very hard for 12 days, and they have inflicted heavy damage on the Israelis, and they have drained basically 1/3 of the American air defense batteries in the region. So the Americans also were not able to continue for another month or two this type of conflict with Iran. So they intervened, pretended that they have annihilated the nuclear program of Iran, and said, we emerged victorious, this is the end, this is where it stops. So, however, the planning nowadays that we can see in the region is much more complicated, according to these officials. And they say in a sustained campaign, the US military could hit Iranian state and security facilities, not just nuclear infrastructure, one of the officials said. Experts say the risks to US forces would be far greater in such an operation against Iran, which boasts a formidable arsenal of missiles. So, retaliatory Iranian strikes also increase the risk of regional war. The same official said the US fully expected Iran to retaliate, leading to back and forth strikes and reprisals over time. Finally, as you may guys know, this week again, Benjamin Netanyahu, or last week, he met with Trump and he basically said that any deal with Iran or any deal with Iran must include the elements that are vital to Israel. And I will now come back to this. Iran has said it is prepared to discuss curbs on its nuclear program in exchange for lifting sanctions, but has ruled out linking the issue to missiles. On Saturday, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi said U.S. military intervention in Iran could save lives and urged Washington not to spend too long negotiating with Iran's clerical rulers on a nuclear deal. So we have multiple things here, guys, to discuss. In my opinion, this type of reporting could be seen in one of the two ways. It could be seen as legitimate information being shared with the press that they're trying to prepare the public opinion for an extended period of war in the region, and this type of war will be probably last for a few weeks, according to these American officials, or it could be a psy-op against the Iranians, trying to give the impression that war is imminent in order for the Iranians to give further concessions. Now, in this case, we have to understand that the maximalist, let's say, demands, especially from the Israeli side, means that they don't want for the diplomacy to succeed. And I will explain this just for a second, please. In my opinion, what the Israelis are doing here by raising the maximalist demands from the Iranians only indicates that the Israelis are not interested in a deal with Iran. What they are interested in is a complete regime change in its classical sense, including military intervention, military campaign, airstrikes, strikes from the international waters, and probably, if things go out of hand, they could resort also to nuclear strike against Iran. I'm not really ruling out any of these possibilities. In my opinion, we have to expect the worst from Benjamin Netanyahu, because Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't represent only himself. Benjamin Netanyahu represents, he's like a representative of a greater empire. So, as we spoke about the empire above Epstein, we also have to understand that there are people above Benjamin Netanyahu. There are people who are more powerful than Benjamin Netanyahu, and that these national and sovereign, let's say, borders do not really indicate or is not a conclusive evidence that Benjamin Netanyahu is simply serving his own people through the territories that he has set for himself. In my opinion, this goes beyond him. This goes to a higher Zionist hierarchy, including probably some of the banking dynasties. This is just a speculation. And this project of an absolute dominance over West Asia or the Middle East is not simply Benjamin Netanyahu's policy or his wishful thinking. It's a grand project which needs funding, which needs bureaucracy, which needs a military industrial complex, which needs also the direct support of the United States. And when we see how the United States operates, basically, and how the United States is increasingly becoming more like an oligarchic system and less like a democracy, then we can safely assume that the escalation against Iran is in the interest of the people who want absolute dominance over West Asia and the Middle East, including the destruction of the last sovereign, let's say, in its classical sense, right? This sovereign nation in the region with great civilization, with long history, which I think existed since the 5th century. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm missing between the 5th century and the 15th century, but Persia has been a very long existing player in the region. And what they're trying to do is not only destroy the sovereignty of Iran, but also its civilization and its also history. And this is very, very important, in my opinion, to understand. What we have to make the link between the transhumanist, let's say, I'm not saying that the Persians are here since the 5th century. I'm saying Persia as a political entity existed since the 5th century, in my opinion, right? So you can basically do your research, fire bad water good, instead of being a very sarcastic, brother. So what I'm trying to bring a few things here. I'm saying that Persia as a political entity, if I'm not mistaken, existed since the 5th century as a political entity, not as Persia as an ethnic group in the region. So in any ways, what we were saying here, so because I was following the comments now, I got confused. Anyways, they're also trying to destroy the civilization and the history of Persia, because what the transhumanist people or the advocates of the transhumanist or the transhumanist project want is basically also to destroy the human identity. If you want to promote for a transhumanist future, you also need to destroy the what is the essence of humanity. And in this case, we as humans, we are the product. What we believe today, what is our, let's say, traditions, values, identities, it's all linked into very long, 1,000 years long civilizational development and the historical context of this region, our language, and many other aspects related to the occupations which pass through your region, what you have taken from them, what you have given to them. So there are different factors, right? What we are today, for example, in West Asia, when I come from Syria, for example, I'm different from you because you had a different context, you had a different language, you had a different historical context, and you have a different civilization and different language. So if you want to push for a transhumanist, let's say post-human or transhumanist project, one of the things that you have to destroy is what makes us us. And what makes us us nowadays is also our civilization, as I mentioned, and our history. And my evidence for it is what happened in Syria, and I mentioned this on a few other podcasts, and that is there is nothing, in my opinion, what explains the ISIS and Al Nusra, those Al Qaeda, basically terrorist groups, destroying our ancient cities, our ancient towns, and our ancient languages. Remember that, for example, they have deliberately attacked one of the towns called Ma'lula in Damascus, and they destroyed it, and they have looted it, and they have forced the people to flee. And in this town, for example, they still speak the language of Jesus Christ, the Aramaic. For example, one of our friends says Palmyra. That is also another example. So if you destroy our ancient cities and our ancient civilization, basically, which is rooted in thousands of years of history, then you're destroying our history. And if you destroy our history and our civilization, you're destroying our identity, because what makes you Syrian, basically, is what exists in your country, is this cycle of historical and civilizational cycle, right? So if you destroy that, there is nothing left from your identity, probably except for your language. So that's why also they attack some of the communities in Syria who speak these ancient languages, the Aramaic, right? Therefore, I'm very much worried and concerned that this is also the plan for Iran, that they want to destroy this civilization. They want to destroy their history. Because if you destroy your history, you ridicule your history, you destroy your history, you loot your history, you sell your own historical artifacts. Some of the Syrian artifacts ended up in Israel, in the UK, in France, in many other places around the world, because people have looted it and they have sold it to the black market. And if you destroy your own civilization and your own history, you're destroying your own identity. And if you're destroying your own identity, so what is the main thing that keeps you fight for your land? It's your belonging, right, to that land. But your belonging to your land also comes from your identity. If you are no longer a proud Syrian, if you no longer even respect the Syrian identity and what it represents from history and civilization, you're no longer attached to that land. If you're no longer attached to that land, then why would you even fight for your land? So this would be also my personal warning for any Iranian nowadays who may be wanting regime change in Iran, but at the same time hesitant, because I'm not talking to the Pahlavis people. The Pahlavis people, they have made their mind. They want regime change through military means, and that would be very disastrous, in my opinion, for the Iranian people. But the people who dislike their government in Iran, and they are suspicious about the US-Israeli interventions in the region, in my opinion, there is a high probability that this is the direction. If the Americans and the Israelis succeed in Iran, this is what they want to do for your country. They want to destroy your civilization, they want to destroy your history, and they want to destroy your identity, and they want to destroy anything ancient in your country, just like they did in Syria. Don't think that you are different from us. Some people always say, no, this country is different from this. Yes, every country is different, but the perpetrator of this type of assaults against other nations and other civilizations is the same. This has been the empire. So this would lead me to believe that they also want a destruction of the Iranian civilization here. So let's see what Benjamin Netanyahu has to say about basically this his demands, right? So what are his demands? What does he want from the Iranians? Why is he raising these maximalist basically demands? Because he doesn't want a diplomatic solution for between the US and Iran. So he wants first, he has 5 demands from the Americans. The first demand is all enriched uranium removed from Iran's territory. So first, all enriched uranium removed from Iran's territory, which means 0 enriched uranium. 2, removal or destruction of all uranium enrichment equipment and facilities, so Iran retains 0 enrichment capability. 3, Iran's ballistic missiles capped at a maximum range of 300 kilometers. 4, full dismantling of what Netanyahu calls Iran's axis of terror across the Middle East, and those, of course, their state and non-state allies. And 5, effectively substantive, no lead time inspections covering all the above in perpetuity. So this is what Benjamin Netanyahu basically wants from the Iranians, and I would like to show you this video, which he.
But I said that if a deal is to be reached, it should have several components that we believe are important not only for the security of Israel, but for the security of the world, the United States, the region, the world. The first is that all enriched material has to leave Iran.
First of all, who appointed Benjamin Netanyahu to speak in the name of the world? And who said, basically, that Iran poses a threat against the United States or against the world in that regard? Can anybody logically explain to me how Iran poses a threat against the United States of America? And how does Iran pose a threat against the world? Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Israel has. Iran hasn't committed genocide recently. Israel is accused of committing genocide by like hundreds of legal experts, human rights organizations. And I think our objective eyes could also explain and understand that what happened in the Gaza Strip was not a war, but rather decimation of the entire Gaza Strip for with the aim of ethnically cleansing the people, and with the destruction we have seen in the Gaza Strip in all the infrastructure and all the sectors in Gaza and all the buildings, almost all the buildings in Gaza. Many people could say, and this is safe to say, this is a genocide, right? And I think this shouldn't be controversial. Iranians have not compromised our smartphones through backdoors. Iranians have not compromised our walkie-talkies and put explosives in them. The former head of Mossad bragged about compromising electronics all around the world, including attaching explosives in them. And Iranians do not have a lobby in every country, every influential country around the world, in order to persuade them and try to pursue foreign policies that suits them. I think the answer is quite clear that Iran is not the danger here to the world, and that we have to speak more about Israel and its role and its nuclear program and its intervention around the world and its expansion. It's not Iran who expanded in other sovereign countries in the region. Didn't expand into Lebanon, it didn't expand into Syria, it didn't expand into Palestinian territories. It is not building settlements over Palestinian territories. It has not killed how many 100,000 people minimum in the Gaza Strip only recently. 2/3 of them are women and children. I think this is so absurd from Benjamin Netanyahu had to make this comment.
The second is that there shall be no enrichment capability, not stopping the enrichment process, but dismantle the equipment and the infrastructure that allows you to enrich in the first place. And the third is to deal also with the questions of ballistic missiles. There's an MTCR limitation of 300 kilometers, and Iran is supposed to adhere to it. Of course, it doesn't. As the Rising Lion operation by itself.
Like, it's so the audacity of talking about enrichment, enriching uranium. Meanwhile, you're sitting over 200 nuclear warheads in your own, and you have the Samson option, which you clearly say that you're ready to nuke the world, basically, if there is an existential threat against you.
Everybody knows that. And the fourth is dismantle the axis of terror that Iran has built. It's been smashed, but it's still there. It's trying to recover, as Iran itself is trying to do.
How is it that the nuclear program is smashed and it is still ongoing? Like, these two words are completely contradictory of each other, right? How can you smash somebody's nuclear program and then they are still enriching uranium somehow? So the previous attack against Iran in June, in my opinion, it was more like an attempt to pretend that the Americans have won this war and that the Rambos and the Arnold Schwarzeneggers have came, all this Hollywood style of movies, that we are the best army in the world and we just crashed their nuclear program. If you crash their nuclear program, why are you planning on second round of attacks against Iran? Right? One of our commentators says Iran is not a threat, but nuclear Iran is. And I don't agree with this assessment. I think having one country in the region, in the Middle East, having nuclear weapons is the danger. We either have a complete non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and nuclear programs, or nuclear weapons, let's say, from the region, including Israel, or there has to be a second power with a nuclear weapon for deterrence. If Iran has nuclear weapons and Israel has nuclear weapons, none of these parties dare to attack each other. or attack each other in a meaningful manner that could pose existential threat. The third point was about he was talking about the nuclear weapons. He just said we attacked Iran, we smashed their nuclear weapons. What are you talking about? So, in my opinion, in this case, if we want to speak about peace in the region, okay, non-proliferation for all of nuclear weapons, all, including Israel. If Israel gives up on its nuclear program now, if Israel gives up its nuclear program, there is no more incentive for Iran to have its own, to reach to the threshold that they could develop nuclear weapons. Because what they're trying to do in Iran, that we could be nuked by Israel. And if you are nuked, we want to have the option to develop a nuke and have the capacity for a second strike. And this is more dangerous for the region. So non-proliferation for Israel and non-proliferation for everyone. Is this something unfair? No. I think that should be the case in this case, and that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons and the Israelis do not have nuclear weapons. If that is not the case, then this situation will continue the way it is, and or the Americans and the Israelis will go to war against Iran. Now, Arakji has said that Iran absolutely will not compromise on its missile program.
At the same time, I must say this very clearly and precisely. Iran's missiles and defense system will never be subject to any negotiations. At the same
So, what the foreign minister of Iran is basically saying, that they could negotiate about the nuclear program, but they will not negotiate about the ballistic program. Now, of course, there have been other people, for example, Iran's deputy foreign minister, he said, as far as we are concerned, zero enrichment is not on the table.
So they've dropped that demand.
As I said, you have to ask this question.
But as far as
to them.
you
But
understand,
as far as we are
you're at the
concerned,
table, you know what the deal is.
As far as we are concerned, zero enrichment is not on the table.
So, as far as we are concerned, zero enrichment is not on the table. And also, the ballistic missile is not on the table. But what if the Americans come and say, okay, you keep your ballistic missile program, but you have to put a limit, 300-kilometer long-range missiles is your maximum range. What are they trying to achieve with that, basically? What they're trying to achieve is that Iran will not be able to retaliate against Israel if they come under attack. It's like they're asking them to commit suicide, right? In this case, I think Iranians will not do that, but there are things that have changed in Iran since the mysterious helicopter accident of the former president of Iran and his foreign minister. And I think I have said this multiple times on Syriana Analysis. It just gives you the impression and the feeling, this is just an impression and the feeling, that some sort of soft coup has already happened in Iran after the mysterious accident, which without evidence, I'm just speculating, I don't think that it was a helicopter accident. I think this was an assassination. And probably the Israelis have killed the president of Iran and the foreign minister, and the Iranians have just swallowed it, because if they admit this was an assassination, then they have to go to war against Israel, something that it seems that they don't want to do. The friend of the show, Ali Alizadeh, who was on the show, I think 2 weeks ago, he made some interesting statements here, and I want to share with you guys for us to understand that there are loyalists of the current Iranian system. You have people who are oppositionist to the Iranian government, but they are not for regime change and they don't support Israel. You have oppositionists to the current government in a harsh way, and they're asking them to do more. One of them is Ali Zeda, and you have the monarchists, right? So you have different types of, let's say, political opinions among the Iranians. But Ali Zeda is one of the people who believes that the current government in Iran is probably compromised, or there has been a soft coup after the helicopter crash of the president and the foreign minister when they were coming from Azerbaijan. And he thinks that the officials in Tehran at the current moment in the political, let's say, sector are not working in the best interests of the Iranian people. This is his opinion, right? And I would like to share his opinion with you. Ali says, the Trump administration has openly signaled a preference for what I call a soft regime change over a costly, hard regime change that risks a full-scale regional war. That means facilitating an elite political transition away from Ayatollah Khamenei, and those committed to strategic independence toward figures such as Hassan Rouhani, who are prepared to accommodate US demands, including disarmament. From this perspective, Ayatollah Khamenei's description of the January unrest and its foreign backing as a coup attempt is not rhetorical excess, but a diagnosis of intent. The recent limited wave of arrests should therefore, so there has been arrests now against some of the so-called reformist politicians in Iran. So he's explaining why these attempts or these arrests happened, because he believes that there was an attempt of a coup by some of these reformists, because the Americans were talking to them and encouraging them so they could come to power and accommodate the US demands. So the recent limited wave of arrests should therefore be understood as a preemptive effort to deter such an elite transition, especially one that could converge with renewed US-Israeli military pressure, not a purge. So this is what he said. And then he published a few other things, which in my opinion, very important. David Miller is basically agreeing with Professor David Miller is agreeing with Ali Zeda, and he's saying there was already a regime change when Sayyid Raisi, the president of Iran, the former one, was assassinated. He means in the helicopter crash, and the counter-revolutionary Pezeshkian government was ushered in as a result. The consequence of this has been the continued destruction of Islamic values and the weakening of the Islamic Republic's strategic coherence and ability to defend itself. But of course, this is not enough, either for Iran's enemies or for the Rouhani faction, which seeks to impose Rouhani as Sayyid Khamenei's successor, to complete the counter-revolutionary regime change and permanently embed it, steering the state towards aggressive secularization and Zionization. They want to turn Iran into a giant Dubai, OnlyFans, McDonald's, and slavery to Pax Judaica by giving up all national wealth, according to David Miller. Now, David Miller also translated a post for Ali Zeda. Ali Zeda has been very much critical of the current government, especially Pezeshkian, but he wrote it only in Persian here on his own account, and his own account is he has two accounts. One of them is Persian. He has a lot of followers here, so he wrote this in Persian, and David Miller basically explained to us what he thinks is happening also in Iran itself. So this is the literal translation, right? Mr. Pezeshkian, the first day of your presidency coincided with the assassination of Iran's official guest, Ismail Haniyeh. The Americans told you not to respond so that a ceasefire could be established in Gaza. You were deceived and ordered Iran not to respond. There was no ceasefire. The result of your naivety was Israel's increased pressure on both Gaza and Lebanon, and the path that led to the killing of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the former leader of Hezbollah. From this perspective, you bear responsibility for the shedding of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah's blood. On October 27, 2024, Israel carried out airstrikes on Iran. And according to Ali Jannati, you're personally called in the Supreme National Security Council for Iran not to respond and accepted responsibility for this lack of response. In February 2025, Iran's leader Sayyid Ali Khamenei described negotiation as dishonorable, unwise, and irrational. Under pressure from you personally, Iran began negotiations a few weeks later. Negotiations that were designed to deceive Iran and prepare the ground for Israel's military attack on Iran. From this perspective, you bear responsibility for the shedding of the blood of hundreds of Iranian civilian citizens, nuclear scientists, and military commanders in June and July 2025. In December 2025, when the decision was made to eliminate the preferential currency, there were disagreements in your government over how this was to be done, especially regarding the sudden unification of the currency rate. And even Sayyid Ali Madani Zadeh and Abdul Nasser Hemmati didn't agree to the overnight unification. The president's office intervened and issued the order for sudden single rate unification. From this perspective, you are responsible for the spark that, 2 weeks later, led to the killing of at least 3,117 people, he means during the riots. But this time, the matter is different. Everyone knows that Trump is buying time to transfer more weapons to the region, gather more intelligence from within the regime through his numerous infiltrators, and find the right moment to catch Iran off guard. This time, Trump's attack will most likely result in the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei. Important political figures, attacks on key military infrastructure, the paralyzing of the media, banking, and administrative systems, and in short, the creation of conditions ripe for chaos and civil war in Iran's border provinces. As president, you have the right to propose negotiations, but you must accept responsibility from this moment onward for all the consequences of these negotiations on the lives of Iranian citizens. If, due to sending a signal of weakness to America, war breaks out, or if America uses these negotiations as a deception operation, the culprit is you, Masoud Pezeshkian. If even a drop of an Iranian blood is shed in such a bloody war, you, Masoud Pezeshkian, are responsible. If the leader of the Islamic Republic is killed in such a war, you, Masoud Pezeshkian, are responsible. If such negotiations result in Iran becoming weaker, the security of Iran being undermined, and the cycle of unrest and killings increasing, you, Masoud Pezeshkian, are one of those responsible. I mean, those are very harsh words, in my opinion. And especially when he was talking about the media blackout that could happen, right, in Iran, if they attack Iran in a massive manner in order to stop its, to send pictures and videos and interviews and what is happening in the country itself to the outside world or to their own people. Media is very important, right? To speak with your own people and also the people outside of Iran. Mohammed Marandi shared something which is worrying. He said, if the Epstein regime attacks Iran, I will remain active online wherever a stable internet connection is available. If I am targeted, the best person to contact for interviews and for providing names of others who would be suitable for such activism is Zainab Ghasemi Tari. We fear nothing, he says. Now, I'm sure that someone like Marandi is not trying to be sensationalist or emotional in this case, probably has information in his hand that probably the war is nearing. And if a war is imminent, I have no doubts. I have zero doubts that they would try to assassinate and kill people like Marandi. And there are lots of precedences for this, especially in the near past. In the Gaza Strip, over 250 journalists have been killed by the Israeli occupation forces. And I would not rule out the possibility at all that what the Americans and Israelis would do the first is to bomb and annihilate the entire, let's say, media infrastructure in Iran, even before attacking the security officials or the military installations, etc., because they want a complete blackout of information in the country in order to spread rumors and spread or try to wage a psychological operation against the Iranian people. And this is something that they master. The Americans and the Israelis, they are very good at this. So, of course, we on this channel, we have to say that we wish health and safety for Muhammad Marandi. However, he and others should not underestimate the depravity and the criminality of those who want to strike Iran and destroy it. And we have seen these people in the Epstein files. We've seen their lifestyle, we've seen their convictions, we've seen their depravity, we've seen their brutality, we've seen their psychopathy, we've seen lots of things about them. So do not underestimate their criminality. Oh, so I'm going to show you a few other things today, even if we go above the 1 hour of today's live stream, my friends. And I think it's important also to show you what happened. By the way, while you're watching this stream, 600 people are watching this live now on only on YouTube. And we have many others on Rumble. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching or listening this podcast or this conversation with you. This is an independent work, 100%. You are the patron of this YouTube channel. If you like to support this channel, the simple thing to do and the easy thing to do is just hit the like button, thumbs up. As you are watching this stream, it would really help me with the algorithm of YouTube. And subscribe to Syriana Analysis, guys. I want to check how many subscriptions we have because we are very, very close to 110,000 subscription. So let me check how many subscribers do we have at the current moment. Analytics. So we are only 12 subscriptions away from 100,000. Is there not 12 people in this live stream who is not subscribed to Syrian Analysis? I'm sure there are. So at the end of this stream, I would really appreciate it if we hit the 110,000 subscription. That would be great news for me. And we will head to 200,000. We will try to be also very cautious in our coverage and what we say, sending the correct messages in a cautious manner, calculated manner, so we also don't trigger much of the YouTube's suppression and deplatforming. There was the Munich Security Conference a few days ago, and Clown Prince Reza Pahlavi was invited. I don't know what are his credentials to be invited to such a meeting. He has not even worked a damn thing in his life. He doesn't know anything about security. He doesn't know anything about geopolitics. He doesn't know anything about foreign policy. But you just have to be part of the club to be invited, right? So this is basically during the panel discussion in the Munich Security Conference, which of course CNN's none other than, what was her name? Christian Amanpour. Of course she was there. And Christian Amanpour asked Lindsey Graham, another warmongering criminal psychopath, basically. She asked him, Reza Pahlavi is here. He's sitting in the audience. Are you ready to say that he is the person you support as the Iranian leader? Lindsey Graham says no. Take a look.
I know Reza Pahlavi is sitting in the audience, but I'm going to ask you, do you put your support behind Reza Pahlavi? Are you ready to say he is the person that the United States is, or you yourself, I don't know whether you speak on behalf of the United States, but as a senior Senate Republican?
No.
Because that's not my job.
Because that's not my job. Yeah. Look at this photo, guys. It's so funny. that they make such photos. Like he looked at Reza Pahlavi and then he looked to Lindsey Graham. She didn't really expect this answer. Amanpour, do you support behind Reza Pahlavi as a person who takes the power in Iran? Senator Graham, no, because it's not my job. I'm sure he will have a prominent role in Iran. Look, Christian Amanpour is shocked, basically, about this answer. Probably she was having wet dreams about Reza Pahlavi becoming the king of Iran, because nothing says more democracy than establishing a kingdom, right? So Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has been asked about the past, about his father, about the monarch of the Shah, and how this basically the Shah was a brutal dictator, right? He wasn't like a democrat, or he didn't establish a bed of roses for the Iranians. I mean, this is something that the people really miss when they discuss about the history of Iran. They speak like Iran was some sort of a liberal democracy and then it turned into an Islamic state, but that was not the case. So he was asked about the past, and this is what he has to say.
You evoke the option of a constitutional monarchy as an option. How can it be a realistic option if you don't acknowledge the what went wrong with the previous monarchy? Thank you.
Aren't we talking about the future?
Yes.
So why are you talking about the past?
Maybe it's make a difference for people that maybe consider
we're talking about the future. And the Iranian people are smart enough to understand that in any democratic exercise, elimination of options is not the way to go. Democracy is not about exclusion, it's about inclusion, unless you are not in conformity with democratic principles. So as long as you're coherent with democratic principles, there are multiple options on the table. Why should we eliminate one option all of a sudden? Because if you want to go by precedence, there may be many bad monarchies as there are many bad republics. And there are also good models of republics and good models of constitutional monarchies, are they not? So if you want to compare apples to apples, great, and oranges to oranges, great. But we're not here to compare apples to oranges.
I don't know why he got triggered about the question of the past, because his father has run a vicious security apparatus, and he disappeared many people, he imprisoned many people, there were lots of political prisoners. So it is a quite, in my opinion, important question to know that are you going to establish a democratic system, which means like you're going to tolerate opposition, right? Or you're going to establish a constitutional monarchy in which the government is in your hand, the constitutional court is in your hands, the cabinet is in your hands, everybody is in your hands. If that is the case, like he's giving the example of the past, so he also, the journalist, understands what is the vision of so-called Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi for the future of Iran. And he got triggered about the past. He said, we're talking about the future. Yes, but in order to build the proper future, we have to understand the past. And if we have committed any mistakes in the past, then we have to correct them. I think that was a correct question from the journalist, which Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has basically just skipped it by trying to, circumvent and turn around this question. In any ways, the former CIA agent, Kiriakou, he had me on his show, by the way, last week or the week before. I don't know if this interview has been published. However, he has some harsh words about Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. I wanted to share with you.
Iran is a gigantic country. It has 92 million people. And public opinion's not as deeply divided as the Israelis want people to believe. The Israelis, you guys have seen this clown, Reza Pahlavi, on TV, right? The crown prince of Iran.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Whose wife is carrying on a very public affair with her personal trainer, which is an utter humiliation in Islamic culture.
Sure.
Totally unacceptable.
But is he even a practicing Muslim? Nobody knows. Like, I have never seen him in a mosque, but I have seen him in Jerusalem kissing the wall, but I have never seen him in a mosque.
He's got a 14-year-old. They live here in Potomac, Maryland. And The guy hasn't been in Iran since he was like 16 or 17 years old. They stole everything they could steal and get it on these planes. And he's just lived fat and happy in Maryland ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And what, now he's supposed to go back to Iran to crown himself king like his father did, place the crown on his own head like Napoleon? So
I think what he says is also the same opinion of Lindsey Graham, by the way, and that's why Lindsey Graham said, "I don't support Reza Pahlavi to become the leader of Iran," because everybody knows that this guy has been living his entire life in the United States. He has not practiced any job in his life. He's just a spoiled daddy's son. He's basically too weak, too docile, no character, no leading traits, no experience in politics, geopolitics, anything, especially in a country like 92 million people, right? So I think John Kiriakou is correct here. And some of the people say CIA has officers, FBI has agents. I mean, you're getting the point, my friend. Agent or officer, the meaning is the most important part. So from the context, you understand what I'm saying. In any ways, what Kiriakou says here is 100% correct. And that's why Lindsey Graham, probably also Donald Trump, the same way when they did the kidnapping of Maduro, everybody expected that, this chick, what was her name, Machado, which they gave her the Nobel Peace Prize for asking the United States to bomb her own country. This is the new preconditions, by the way, for Nobel Peace Prize. I want to call for wars from now on. I want destruction. I want the United States to bomb the hell out of all the nations around the world so that I get my Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. It's crazy. In any ways, when they took out Maduro, what did they do? What did they do? They didn't put her in power because she's a clown, because she was just a useful idiot, because she's like a lemon you can squeeze and then throw it into the bin. And Reza Pahlavi, this clown prince, although he has supporting base outside of Iran, he doesn't have any supporting base inside Iran. So bringing someone like him will create lots of social turbulence and also opposition to him from the people. How is he going to rule over a country of 92 million people if he doesn't have the support of the people? Is he going to become all of a sudden a tyrant and put everyone in check, 92 million people? He's not going to be able to do that, especially that he doesn't have also the security forces are not on his side. The military is not on his side. So it's a really complicated situation. That's why I believe Trump wants a deal with Iran, but a type of a deal that could be equal to surrender for Iran. Israel wants a regime change by knocking out the system completely and replacing the current one with Reza Pahlavi. The outcome is the same. They want to kneel Iran and the Iranian people. They want to take away its sovereignty. They want to loot its own natural resources. And by doing so, they want to harm China. China buys a lot of its oil from Iran itself. And the Eurasian economic integration, basically, in the Eurasian region, stands on three legs: Russia, China, and Russia. And if you couldn't fight and defeat Russia in Ukraine, the planners, those are above Donald Trump, by the way, they whispered in his ears and they said, we have to do what is called reverse Kissinger strategy, meaning we have to play nice with Russia in order to wedge or find a rift between China and Russia, because remember, during the Cold War, the Americans pursued a type of policy. The Kissinger strategy was to antagonize these two countries against each other, to put them against each other. Back in the day, it was the Soviet Union and the Communist China, right? So, and this was successful. Now they want, first they supported China against the Soviet Union, excuse me. Now they want for Russia to go against China, but they're not going to be successful in that. It's not going to work for them. So what they are doing here is in their mind, the weaker element in this free Eurasian alliance and the economic integration that is ongoing in the region is to hit Iran instead, which is also supplying a lot of its energy to China, which needs this energy for its economic development. So this is what is going on in their mind. Now, of course, that is why people like the oil industries, for example, we have the US Oil Lobby Summit. This is in the United States. If there is a regime change in Iran, we would get a lot more oil and gas much sooner than from Venezuela.
Commercially adept, historic. If you can imagine our industry going back there, we would get a lot more oil a lot sooner than we will out of Venezuela. That's more conventional oil right near infrastructure and gas as well. And we reduce political risk with getting oil out of the stands in Russia. Terrible day for Moscow, wonderful day for the Iranians, the United States, the oil industry, and world peace. I think there's a good chance that...
So they are fantasizing basically about the oil and gas in Iran. And they say it is better than in Venezuela, because in Venezuela, I think the type of oil they have is a different type. I'm not an expert on fuel and oil. I hope people would not be now funny and sarcastic about it. So the one in Iran is ready for export, and there is an infrastructure there to extract and export the oil and the gas. So they're eyeing also on that. And accordingly, if you read my article, The Empire Above Epstein, you would also notice that I have mentioned Elon Musk, because Elon Musk is also part of the establishment, guys. I'm sorry to break this for you if you believe that Elon Musk is somehow an anti-establishment figure. And as you can see, there is a coordinated efforts against Iran. One of which is, of course, they are smuggling thousands of Starlink terminals into Iran after protest crackdown. So they have sent 7,000 Starlink terminals earlier this month to Iran, and this is on the expense of the US taxpayer money. They're sending it to Iran, to the probably the leaders or the provocateurs or the rioters, in order to incite a second round of riots when if the strikes start against Iran. So in this case, imagine if the United States and Israel decide to attack against Iran, and these rioters would have Starlink to cover and start their own live streams, do their own coverages, post their own videos all around the world. Meanwhile, there's a complete blackout from the Iranian government side. So they will also have a media advantage, technological advantage, and also the media and the coverage advantage on their side. So this is what Elon Musk is doing. And please, guys, remember, this is nothing new. In 2011 and 2012, the Americans, the CIA, they have sent also operatives and also basically collaborators, Syrian collaborators, who were in the United States. They sent them to Syria in 2011 and 2012 with technologies to give free internet to the rioters, to the armed militants, to the people who started the insurgency against the former Assad government. One of these people, his name was Bassel Khartabil. So he used to work at MIT at in a media lab in MIT. I think its name is it's not Think Media, no. But he used to work in a media lab at MIT, and they sent him to Syria. And he has brought the technology with him to give free internet to the rebels, to the rioters, to the so-called revolutionaries, mostly are Islamist, Muslim Brotherhood Takfiris, right? From the beginning. And he got caught in 2012, and he was executed in 2015. They charged him with espionage and collaboration with hostile enemy forces. Now, during this recent Epstein email drop, we found his name, basically, in one of the emails. The head of this media lab at MIT is contacting Jeffrey Epstein, asking him if he knows someone who has influence over Assad, because they want to release him from the prison. So imagine how all these things are interconnected from the day of Syria, similar tactics, different tools. And now in Iran, they're doing it through Starlink. And now Elon Musk is playing this dirty role inside Iran as well. But if you read the Wall Street Journal, which I have shown you about the how many Starlink devices they have smuggled into Iran, 7,000 of them. In one of the paragraphs, the Wall Street Journal claims and says that there is no evidence for the claims of the Iranian government that the protesters, and because they call them all protesters, they are no rioters at all. Anyways, they say the protesters do not enjoy any foreign support from outside. That is not the case. That is just a claim that is absurd, that is unverifiable, that is just a propaganda from the Iranian side. But what they don't tell us, basically, that there is an unprecedented confession on the Israeli Channel 15. On the Israeli Channel 15, guys, they are speaking about CIA agents. They say they were active in the Iranian riots alongside the rioters. The USA is still in Iran, operating on the ground through the CIA. The US is sending electronic warfare kits. The war has already begun. So I'm going to show you this video. I will remove myself because there is the subtitles for us to read.
עיתונאים יגאל, בפעם הקודמת שהוצב אולטימטום לאיראן זה הסתיים בתקיפה.
האולטימטום הוא היה קצר יותר, אז הוא קצב להם שבועיים, עכשיו הוא אומר עד חודש, כן, זה לוח הזמנים. כלומר, כל מה שאנחנו שומעים כבר חודש וחצי, אולי יותר, סביב הסיפור של איראן, מאז שהחלו למעשה ההפגנות של המורדים בחוצות טהרן בערים הגדולות, כל זה מקבל עכשיו לוח זמנים, כל זה חייב להסתיים תוך חודש, הערכה היא שאולי גם מוקדם יותר. איפה הקאץ' כרגע? יהודי חכם שאנחנו מדברים איתו, רפובליקני, אומר לי הבוקר את הדבר הבא, תראה, התקיפה יצאה לדרך, המלחמה כבר החלה, איך יודעים? ארצות הברית פועלת כבר על הקרקע באיראן, סוכנויות הביון שלה, ה-CIA, אתמול דיווח ה-Wall Street Journal, שארצות הברית מעבירה ערכות של לוחמה אלקטרונית בסטארלינק לתוך איראן, 6,000 במספר עד עכשיו, את זה אתה לא...
So, he's talking also about the Starlink and how many basically technological equipments they have brought inside Iran. I will show you guys the map of Iran because some people basically said, for example, our friend, how do they enter those Starlink devices inside Iran, especially after the last protest? Iran should control all the incoming things in its border. Well, this is Iran, guys. As you can see, it has borders with Afghanistan. It has borders with Pakistan. It has borders with Turkmenistan. It has borders with Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iraq, the sea. It's a very big country. You can't really control all the borders. I think they can do it through Afghanistan easily. They can do it through Pakistan. They could do it through Turkmenistan. They could do it from anywhere. They could do it from Iraq, from Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a hostile country, very much pro-Israel in the region. So I think it will not be difficult for the Americans to smuggle 7,000 or 6,000 basically devices into Iran. So just a second, what's happening here? So this is my friend's subscription on Syriana Analysis. So we are 109,997 subscriptions, which means we are only 3 subscriptions away from hitting 110K subscribers on Syriana Analysis. I would kindly ask you guys to check if you are already subscribed. If you're not, I would invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really love to see you again here, guys, especially that tomorrow, we're 2 subscriptions away. Tomorrow, we're going to have a long 80 minutes, 1 hour and 20 minutes conversation with Neil Oliver. We're going to speak about many of the conspiracy theories. We're going to speak about the empire above Epstein. If you are looking forward to that, please hit the like button, subscribe to Syriana Analysis. And if you like to do more, like if you want to support the independent journalism I'm doing on this show, Syriana Analysis, the easy thing is somebody unsubscribed. You can become a patron, guys. The link is scrolling on the screen, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. If you don't like to use Patreon, there are different other means in the description below and also in the first comment attached on under this video. So we just hit 110K subscriptions on Syriana Analysis. I started this YouTube channel in my sleeping room. I'm still in my living room here. It's just one-man show. And I started it with very modest equipment, with the smartphone. That's it. And I'm trying to improve this work. And all the thanks also goes to you guys for tuning in daily, liking, sharing, subscribing to this YouTube channel. I'm trying to do my best in the best of my ability to explain difficult geopolitical conflicts. And from now on, we will also focus more on the possible dystopian future that could be waiting us. So that's why tomorrow we'll have this conversation with Neil Oliver. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in for today's live stream. I appreciate you all, whether on YouTube or on Rumble. And I will see you with Neil Oliver tomorrow. Peace be upon you, upon your families. Salam.